So today I want to talk to you about gingerbread. I had this huge plan to go all over Chicago and find all the best gingerbread that I could, and then come home and make my own gingerbread cookies. But while I was on my adventure, I found that while Chicago loves gingerbread, Chicago doesn't know how much Chicago loves gingerbread. So I went over the past 2 days to many places. I went to Lutz Bakery and they were sold out of their gingerbread. I went to Roser's and they were sold out of their gingerbread cookies. I went to Vinny Patisserie and they were sold out of their gingerbread macarons and their gingerbread cookies. So while there were so many options of places that had gingerbread, I actually didn't end up with very much in the end. What I did end up with was I got a gingerbread latte at Printer's Row, which was amazing. And then I got this gingerbread marshmallow from Catherine Ann's and this gingerbread lemon ice cream sandwich. It's exciting to see all this stuff that there is, but I didn't get to try very much of it. So all I really can try for you right now is the gingerbread marshmallow, which this is from Catherine Ann's Chocolates, and it's so amazing. It's so fluffy and squishy. It's beautiful. Yeah, that's really nice. It's a nice gingery flavor, but also a nice molasses to it. I feel like that's the main things that I'm looking for. Puka, chill your pill. Yeah, I really enjoyed this. It was really exciting. Not a cookie, but delicious nonetheless. So then here from Pretty Cool Ice Cream, we've got a ginger snap ice cream sandwich. I think it's really beautiful. It's huge and my mouth is not, so I'm gonna try. That's also really good. I was like a little bit worried about the lemon with it, but it comes together with kind of like a cream cheese and gingerbread feeling, which I really enjoy. Yeah, they're both super delicious. And I think one thing that works out quite well, since I wasn't able to find too many gingerbread cookies, is that rather than trying to replicate something that exists, I can show you my grandma's recipe, which actually comes from a great-great-grandmother of mine. And it's really delicious and it's a favorite from my childhood. So I'm really excited to share it with you. Hi everyone. So today I wanted to take a little time to show you how to make some gingerbread cookies that I've had for basically my whole life. I went around the city, as you know, tried a bunch of different gingerbread things, but what I really wanted was my grandma's gingerbread cookies. So yeah, let's get started with making these cookies. So the first thing that we're gonna do is cream together a cup of shortening, a cup of sugar, and 2 beaten eggs. Here is our cup of sugar. And then we've got our cup of shortening here as well. All right. We're just gonna beat together the sugar and shortening really quick. I'm just going to take a minute to scrape down the sides because it definitely is getting some shortening and sugar up around there. So yeah, just scraping it down. My grandma, when she makes these, she usually uses a hand mixer, but I don't have one at the moment, so I'm just using my handy dandy stand mixer. All right, I'm going to give it one more little stir without the eggs and then I'll add the eggs. Okay. So now that I have mixed together the shortening and sugar, I'll add in the eggs. So this is 2 eggs beaten together lightly. You don't need to like get them super combined, but you just don't want them to be a completely separate yolk and white. Okay, so now we're gonna mix that. And what we're looking for with this is kind of just like a homogeneous, lightly yellow, slightly fluffy mixture of our shortening, eggs, and sugar. Okay, let's give that one final stir there. And yeah, it looks really nice and fluffy. So I'll just scrape this off, and then we can move to the next part of the process. Now I'm going to sift together my flour and spices. This flour is like very chunky, so it definitely needs sifting. Okay, and then I'm also adding to the sifter all the spices and the salt. So it's a half a teaspoon of salt, a tablespoon of cinnamon, a half a teaspoon of cloves, and two teaspoons of ginger. And then I added just a tiny bit of nutmeg, maybe an eighth of a teaspoon. So I'm gonna add that in now. You wanna make sure that you use a fine salt because otherwise it's not gonna go through the sifter and all this sifting is gonna be for nothing. But yeah, gonna get that going through. It smells like Christmas time. It's like you get the cinnamon, I feel like that's the strongest thing, but you also get the clove coming through because even though there's not a ton of clove, it's a pretty strong flavor. I don't know, it smells like what you hope your house smells like on Christmas Day. It's really lovely. And then it also smells like flour, which is kind of plain, so we don't need to talk about that part very much. The next part of this process might be my favorite part. My grandma always called it a magic trick. Basically, what you do is we're going to combine our molasses and baking. It's a cup of molasses, 4 tablespoons of baking powder. Nope. 4 tablespoons of baking soda. And they have sort of a chemical reaction, and so the molasses will get really floofy and also turn quite light as you stir it together, and it's really cool to see. Cool. So we're going to start by pouring this molasses into the bowl. I filled it really high, so I was scared, but none of it even spilled, so we're fine. Golden even. This reminds me of just being at my grandma's house in the winter growing up. Sometimes in the summer too. We always loved making gingerbread together. Okay, so now I'm just gonna add in my 4 tablespoons of baking soda and start stirring that together. As a kid, my grandma would always let me do this part, which I really loved. So I'm sure there's something like acidy and basy happening here. Either way, it's still magic, which is the real point that we're trying to make here. All right, and you can see here it's already starting to lighten a little bit in color. As it gets fluffier and more air is incorporated, then it's lighter in color. Great, so we're ready to go. The next step here is just to add our molasses mixture into our bowl with our sugar and shortening mixture. We'll give that a stir. Okay, I'm just gonna scrape my sides. Looks like everything is incorporating really well. So now that's combined, we're going to alternate adding this flour mixture and buttermilk. So let's grab a little spoon. We'll do probably, like a third of it at a time. And ideally you make as much mess as you can so that I look less bad when you make it. Okay, so flour might poof up here, just so you're aware. Yep, and once that's kind of incorporated, we'll add our next set. And now we'll just add our last segment of flour. I'm also going to add a little of that back in there. And final bit of buttermilk. Okay, great. So this is about what you want it to look like at this point. It's nice and thick. It's probably a little bit too sticky to work with, but we're gonna stick it in the fridge for about an hour to let it get nice and solid before we roll it out. Alrighty, so the dough has now rested for an hour or so, and so we can roll it out and start putting it together. So one of the cool things about this dough is that we tend to do kind of the decorating part before baking, which I know can sound a little bit weird, but rather than doing like frosting and things like that, we use a little bit of buttermilk, some sugar, and like little candies and things like that to decorate. That's how I've done it since I was a kid, and I love it. It's one of my favorite parts of the Christmas season. So I'm just rolling this out to about a 1/4 inch thick. That should give us plenty of cookies that we can make out of this, and also there'll be a nice thickness, not too crispy, not too not crispy. The dough is really soft. And yeah, it will be really nice. So I've got a bunch of different cookie cutters. I'm gonna do some bells, little gingerbread man, couple Christmas trees, I'm trying to get as many as possible from this first rollout, but it's not super important. This dough is really forgiving and doesn't tend to get too stiff or anything if you re-roll it. So yeah, I'll just take a minute to get all my cookies up. All right, so this time I have just some red sugar. I also might do a couple just with kind of turbinado sugar because I think that's really cute. I've got red hots, which I'm just going to put in a little jar or bucket, bowl, you know, whatever. And then I got some mini M&Ms as well. They're Christmas ones, so they're red and green. I didn't mean to do that. I should have got regular ones because I want more colors, but this is what we've got today. Okay, so I use a little brush, just get it wet with buttermilk, just so that I make sure I'm not missing anything or drying any out. Okay, cool. So I'm gonna start with some that I'll just put a little sugar on. Maybe let's do the base of this tree in red. So the cookies are done. They turned out quite beautifully, I think. And I'm so excited to have been able to share this with you. So have a great day, and I'll see you next week.